All right, I'm going to try to create a Polymer element, the XPizza Polymer element, that uses a little bit of SVG under the covers in order to represent the internal state of the pizza for display back to the user. In this particular screencast, I'm not going to worry too much about getting all the fancy details right. I would just like to be able to take the SVG that I generate from Inkscape and copy it into my Polymer element, run the Polymer element, and do a little bit of stuff with the SVG images. So we'll see where we get from there. The first thing I want to do in Inkscape is go ahead and change the size. I'm going to just create a square. I mean, the pizza is going to be round, so we're going to need a square image of 300 by 300. That seems like a reasonable size to do with this. So add some grid lines there. Going to fill and get the layers up and running. The only reason to get the layers showing in here is to delete them. We don't want to do any layers or transforms or anything like that. We want to do all our drawing directly in the base SVG. Just makes it easier to import and work with once we get it into the Polymer. So with that, I'm going to make a pizza kind of thing to work with. So just draw from there down to the opposite side. Now let's see. The stroke paint, I think for the stroke paint is the outside, the crust, if you will, in this little drawing. I think for that we want to make that a little bit brown. Also the stroke style, probably want to have a fairly large crust, something maybe like 25, something like that'll work. And the fill looks pretty good. That's a really bright red. We'll make it a little bit deeper. So it's a little bit more like tomato paste. And it'll show up things like the pepperoni and other kinds of toppings a little bit easier than that. But that seems like a good start there. So with that, we'll go ahead and save. And we'll call this pizza.svg. And we want to save it as plain SVG, not the Inkscape SVG. We just want to have most basic SVG we can work with. Let's go ahead and create another image. This one we want to create an icon. And the icon we want to do is 32 by 32. We do the grid. And we'll do the same kind of thing that we did with the pizza, except on a much smaller scale. So we'll again do this. Let's get the fill, the layers up and running. We want to draw in our base image. Change the stroke style. I guess we'll have to draw first. I'm going to have a really crazy image here. Just because the stroke style defaults to 25, but we just want to go to 1. That seems a little bit better. And we'll change the stroke paint to black, easier to see. And change the fill color to like raw red, so that it'll show up a little bit easier on the tomato sauce of the base pizza image. With that, we'll do the same thing that we did with the pizza. We'll save it, and we'll save that as pepperoni SVG. Alright, let's quit out of Inkscape. Don't care if we lose any of the SVG, Inkscape, SVG attributes. We're just going to work with raw SVG again. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with our Polymer element. I like to do all my work in the repos directory. Repos. And in here I'm going to make a XPizza directory. And that'll do for now. Switch back over to Emacs and get started. So the first thing we want to do with any Polymer element, or with any Dart project really, is to create our pubspec.yaml. Name, call this XPizza. The dependencies are going to be Polymer and any version of Polymer that we want to work with. And the other thing that we have to worry about when we're working on a Polymer project is that we need a transformer. And the only transformer that we need in here is Polymer. All right, so we have our pub spec. Next thing we're going to need is a web directory to test things out. And we'll also need a lib elements directory. Elements directory. Now that I think about it, we'll probably also need the lib images directory. The images directory is going to be where we put those SVG images that we just built. So let's move those. Star.svg into lib images. Now if we do ls lib images, we've got those two, the pepperoni and the pizza base in there. Okay, so we've got the web directory. All right, so we've got the web directory, the lib directory, the pubspec.yaml, which means that we're ready to pub install. Got our dependencies. Everything is good to go. Got our packages directory, and the packages directory should be in web as well. So we are fine. Next thing we'll do is create our web index.html file. And we'll start off with a doc type. Don't strictly need this, but Polymer, the Polymer transformer in particular, will complain if we don't start off with that. Alright, so let's create an HTML tag. The title will be Pizza Builder. Alright, don't need an address. What is this? 1999? No. Alright, got our body. And in here we're going to need to create an xpizza tag. Whoops. Xpizza. And this is going to be the Polymer element that we're going to build. So we actually need to define that. But first, we need a couple of other things. First up, we're going to need to load the Polymer platform. And that is done currently with the script tag. The source is going to be equal to the packages. Packages, that autocomplete's not right. Packages, web components, platform.js. And close the script tag. That'll load in our the Polymer polyfills and everything from JavaScript land that Dart, Polymer.dart will make use of as well. So the next thing after that is to actually load in the Polymer element that we're trying to build itself, and that we do with the link tag. The relationship is import, and we get this by virtue of pulling in that platform, so that's why that needs to be done first and why that's important. The href that we're going to be going for here is packages, not web components, packages xpizza elements pizza.html. All right, next we need to create a script tag that actually fires up the Polymer platform itself, the Polymer.dart platform itself. And for that we need, actually, I'm just going to create a script tag. And the important thing here is to get application Dart, so that we can run some Dart code. And the Dart code that we want to run is the Polymer initialization. And for that to work, we need to export package, actually that's right, package Polymer init.dart. Good deal. That should be all we need to do for our main web page in order to run this. So next up, we're going to go ahead and create the xpizza Polymer file. So that's going to be done in lib elements and xpizza.html. First thing we need to do in xpizza.html is link in, import the polymer.html in order to get all that good stuff in there. The Polymer element tag, getting the template, and all that good stuff that makes this work. So for that, we're going to go /././. 3. We have to go up 3 directly to levels because we're doing this in lib element rather than just in lib. So we need to go ... and then we get packages polymer /polymer.html. All right, then let's go ahead and we want to create a Polymer element. Last thing we need in here is a script tag whose source, let's say type, is going to be, again, application Dart, and whose source is going to equal to xpizza.dart. Save that. All right. And the first thing we're going to do in here is create our template. This is where all of the good Polymer stuff is going to be hidden inside the shadow DOM of our Polymer element. So I create the template, and all right, and inside the template, we're going to create an SVG tag. SVG, and there's not too much to this base element, this base SVG. The first thing we need to do is give it an ID so we can refer to it if we need to. And then we're going to specify a width, and the width will be 300. The height will be 300 as well to match the size that we exported from Inkscape at. This is SVG, so it's, you know, the S is scalable vector, so we could change just anything else we want, but it's easy just to stick with the numbers that we exported. And that's it. We've got our base. Inside our base, we're going to create a couple of images. First image is going to pull in the pizza. So ID is equal to SVG pizza. Pizza. And the width is going to be 300. Height is going to be 300. And the only difference here is that we're going to create a href to actually pull that in, but it's got to be an Xlink href in order to work with SVG. And that's going to be coming from packages /x pizza /images / there we go, pizza.svg. And that's it. And let's do the same thing. CT image and ID is equal to SVG. This is going to be for the pepperoni. The width on here is going to be the 32 that we created it as, and the height is going to be 32 as well. And then we do the same thing. Actually, let's go ahead and just copy this. Typing that whole thing out. And this will be pepperoni. And the only other thing that we're going to do in here is give it a style. Regular old CSS style. And it's going to be display none. We don't actually want to see this SVG image. We're going to make use of that so we can make copies of it and move it around. We don't want to see the pepperoni just in the top corner or wherever it defaults to. We want to be able to grab that, make clones of it, move it around, and if we display none, that gives us the chance to do exactly that. So we save that. We're actually almost ready to run our Polymer elements, but before we do that, we need one more thing. We need that xpizza.dart file. And here we're going to start by importing package Polymer slash polymer.dart. And this is going to be a custom tag. And the custom tag is going to be for xpizza. We need that annotation in order to make all this work. So in here, class xpizza is going to extend Polymer element, which we pull in from polymer.dart. That's why we need to import that. So it extends Polymer element. And why don't we go ahead and just do xpizza created. Let's see if this works. Pizza created super dot created. And I think that should do it. If I've typed everything right, we should be in good shape here. All right, we're in the repos xpizza directory. And in here we've got all our files. So let's go ahead and start by creating a screen session. It'll let us do a couple of things at the same time. I like to run my web server in Windows 3. So to do that, we need to run pubserv. Make sure everything's okay. And everything completed successfully. So go over to Windows 4. In Windows 4, I like to run Dartium and do that with Chrome. So here, localhost 8080. And that did not quite work. That should have pulled in SVG. Missing initialization of Polymer. Ah, darn it. Alright, so I had a little failure there. It's because my transformers is not including, or it's supposed to be transformers, not transformer. So I'll go back over here, reload pubserv. Okay, so here we forgot that the name of the element is going to be xpizza. See if that doesn't. So I'll try the pubserv again. And there we go. Now we've got our actual pizza showing up. Next thing we'll want to do is take those pepperonis that we have in there and move them around somewhere on the pizza. And that'll be the end of what we're trying to do so far. This will be a pretty good start. We've got our shadow root, our xpizza, SVG is in there. We've got our images. One is showing, one is set to display none. We're in pretty good shape. So let's see if we can take the pepperoni that's in there, move it around on the face of the pizza, and call it a screencast. The only thing we haven't done so far is place the pepperoni around on our Polymer element. So let's go ahead and finish off that. And in order to do that, we're going to do this after the element has been created. So far, we've just been using a redirecting constructor for the xpizza, redirecting up to the super created that's in Polymer elements without a body. Let's go ahead and create a body right here. And in our body, we want to take our base SVG element that we've got over here, and we want to add a couple of more pepperonis onto it. So base SVG, and let's just go ahead and append. We're going to create a function to do this, or a method to do this. We're going to append a pepperoni at, and we'll call it, I don't know, 75 100. We'll add a couple of those, so we'll just keep this down here out of the way for now. That's going to fail because we don't have pepperoni. Let's make this private. pepperoni at. There's no reason for anything outside of our Polymer element ever to call pepperoni at. We're creating an element, it's not going to do anything unless it gets appended, and we're only going to append it to our base. So we might as well make it private. Pepperoni at is going to take X and Y. And I guess this is going to return a G element. So we're appending a pepperoni at and G element. Then the G element is going to come from Dart's SVG library. So we need to import that first off. All right, we've got our pepperoni at. Now the thing we want to do first is we want to get an image. The image is going to be equal to the pepperoni that we have. So it's SVG. Use Polymer $lookup to get the SVG pepperoni. And what we want to do here is clone. It's got to take a Boolean argument to say whether we want a deep clone or a shallow one. Doesn't make any difference in this case since there's no child elements, so we just pass in false. So we clone that image, and then we need to do image.style.display. And we'll set that to inline so that we're not doing, so that we're not displaying none anymore. All right, so we've got that. The next thing we need to do is create the G element that we're going to return. So return a new G element, group element. And the first thing we want to do is set some attributes on this. And those are transform. And we want to translate inside the transform. Translate, and we want to do that by x, comma y that we're passing into the function. And the other thing we want to do is append our image. So that should do it. Go ahead and load this up. And G element is not loaded. My pairs are not telling me that I spelled that wrong. G element. G element has no instance together attributes. Of course it does not. Attributes. All right, now we load it, and there it is. We've got a pizza, no cheese on it, and one pepperoni element. And I just so happen to have a bunch of these lined up, lying around, so we'll append a bunch of pepperonis at different locations around there onto the base SVG, save that, reload it, and there it is. We've got our pizza builder pizza image with a default pizza, and it's got a bunch of pepperoni and a smiley face on there. So not too bad. We created a bunch of SVG images in Inkscape, exported them as plain SVGs, pulled them into a brand new Polymer project, and we're able to create the web page, the smoke test web page that holds this, and the element and backing class in order to do all the work we needed to. This is a good start, of course, not actually building anything right now, but you know, it's a good start. From here on out, we're probably going to need to add functionality, and once we start adding functionality, that's a good time for testing. So we'll get started on that in the next screencast. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you found this to be somewhat useful. This is the first attempt at a screencast to support the book Patterns in Polymer, which you can get at patternsinpolymer.com. It's an awesome book, and going to be producing bunch of screencasts that are hopefully going to just keep improving in quality. This one was really more meant to work out the kinks, identify any bugs in the process, of which there are no doubt very many, but I'm going to keep working at getting these better. And if you found this useful, there are the screencasts that are going to come with the book, the extras version of the book, are going to be that much better. So thank you again, and happy polymering.